Stormalong Harbor was never a place for the faint of heart, but tonight it felt different. The air was thick with fog, cold and suffocating, and the ocean churned beneath the sickly moon. The usual clamor of the docks had vanished, replaced by an eerie silence that seemed to seep into every corner of the harbor. The old wooden ships cracked like skeletal giants, their masts swaying with each gust of wind. Flapjack stood there, at the edge of the pier, shivering despite the warmth of his coat. He was with Knuckles, but the old sailor hadn't said a word for the past few minutes, his eyes scanning the dark horizon, his face drawn tight with worry. "Do you ever wonder where the people go?" Flapjack asked quietly, his voice full of unease.
The ones who disappear around here?
Knuckles didn't answer right away. His jaw clenched, and he took a long swig from his rum flask before responding.
"People disappear all the time in Stormalong,"
he muttered, his voice rough.
"Some fall off the docks, some get swallowed by the sea. But there's one thing you should know, Flap. There's someone around here who makes sure people never come back."
Flapjack frowned.
Who? Who does that?
"The doctor." Knuckles spat, the name like poison on his tongue. "Or the barber, or whatever he calls himself. He's the reason people go missing. People don't just vanish around here. They get taken." Flapjack's curiosity piqued, but a cold shiver ran down his spine.
What do you mean, taken?
Knuckles grimaced, his eyes hardening as he stared into the mist.
"The doctor's not a real doctor. No, he's something worse. A butcher. He tells people he's a healer, but don't be fooled. He doesn't cure anyone. He eats them."
Flapjack's eyes widened in disbelief. "What?" Knuckles looked at him, his face calm and serious.
"People say he's a cannibal. He hunts the lost and the desperate, the ones who wander too far down to his clinic. And when they go inside, they never come out. Not as themselves, at least."
Flapjack didn't want to believe it, but he could see the fear in Knuckles' eyes. Fear of a man he had never seen, but whose reputation was enough to strike terror into even the toughest sailors.
"You don't know the half of it, kid,"
Knuckles continued, lowering his voice.
"You know how people disappear, right? They go down to the doctor's clinic thinking they'll get a haircut or a shave. But that's not what he's after, no. The doctor cuts something much deeper, something darker. And when he's done, they never come back."
Flapjack's stomach twisted in knots, his curiosity battling against the fear creeping up his spine.
I have to see for myself.
Knuckles grabbed his arm, his grip iron tight.
"Don't! You have no idea what you're messing with. The doctor's not like the other folks. He doesn't just kill people, Flapjack. He devours them. He takes their flesh and uses it to make himself better. You're playing with fire, Flap. Don't go near him."
But Flapjack pulled away, his resolve hardening. He needed to know the truth. There was something about the doctor, something that made the hair on his back of his neck stand up. He had to find out. The fog grew thicker as Flapjack made his way to the doctor's clinic, a crumbling, decrepit building at the farthest edges of the harbor. Its windows were darkened, the doors half open, as if inviting him to enter. Every instinct screamed at him to turn around, to forget the doctor and leave this place of shadows behind. But Flapjack pressed forward. The clinic smelled terrible, an overwhelming stench of rot, blood, and something sweet, like the smell of something decayed. As Flapjack stepped inside, the door slammed shut behind him with a heavy thud, trapping him in the dark, cramped room. The air felt wrong, thick, with a suffocating heaviness that seemed to weigh down on him. There were no signs of life here, only the remnants of what might have once been a medical clinic. Rusted tools lined the counter, and the jars filled with strange murky liquids lined the shelves. But the most unsettling thing was the mirror. The mirror in the center of the room, cracked and smeared with something that looked far too dark to be just dirt. Then he heard it, a soft, low chuckle from behind him. Flapjack whirled around to see a tall, giant figure standing in the doorway. The man wore a long coat, stained with dark, drying patches that Flapjack could only guess were blood. A wide-brimmed hat obscured his face, but Flapjack could see a glint of sharp eyes peering out from beneath it. The doctor. Flapjack's heart pounded in his chest as the man took a slow step forward. The air around him seemed to shimmer with a sickening heat, like something alive was radiating from within. Well. The doctor's voice was low, gravelly whisper, laced with an unsettling sweetness.
The curious little boy, come to see for himself. How brave of you, Flapjack.
Flapjack tried to back away, but his feet felt glued to the floor. Something about the doctor's presence was paralyzing him. He could barely make himself speak.
I just wanted to ask you something about the people who disappear.
Flapjack stammered, his voice shaking despite his best effort to sound confident. The doctor's smile widened, revealing teeth that were too sharp, too hungry.
You've heard the stories, haven't you? The poor souls who wander in here, thinking they'll get a simple haircut or a little treatment. But no, my dear boy, you don't understand. I fix them. I remake them.
He stepped closer, his eyes never leaving Flapjack's.
I take their broken pieces, their flaws, and I reshape them into something better, something more useful.
Flapjack felt his stomach turn, his body urging him to run, but his feet stayed rooted. The doctor continued, his voice growling, more animated with each word.
You see, Flapjack, the human body is a delicate thing, so frail, so full of imperfections. But me, I can fix those imperfections. I can make them disappear, one piece at a time. I've learned the art of restoration, boy.
He grinned, his mouth stretching wide.
And I do so love to work with fresh ingredients.
The words sank in like a stone in Flapjack's chest.
Ingredients?
Flapjack whispered, horrified.
What do you mean?
The doctor's laughter was a sharp, manic sound that echoed in a small, oppressive space.
Oh, you poor, naive child. You are the ingredient. Everyone who walks through that door is an ingredient. The body is a tool, a vessel, to be molded, reshaped, and devoured.
Before Flapjack could react, the doctor lunged at him with a speed that seemed impossible. His hand shot out and grabbed Flapjack by the throat, lifting him off the ground as if he weighed nothing. Flapjack gasped for air, his hands desperately clawing at the doctor's wrist.
You see, Flapjack?
The doctor whispered, his voice now a hoarse rasp.
I take what I need. I carve away what's useless. And I feast on the parts that are most delicious. You won't understand until you're on my table. But trust me, you'll be perfect.
Flapjack's vision blurred as the doctor's grip tightened. Panic surged through him, and with everything he had, he kicked the doctor in the chest, sending him stumbling backward for a moment. The doctor seemed momentarily stunned. Flapjack gasped for air and bolted toward the door, his legs shaky but fast. He reached for the handle, but before he could open it, the doctor's voice rasped from behind him.
Don't think you can escape from me, boy.
The doctor growled.
I've tasted the fear of many like you. And when I'm finished with you, you'll beg to be a part of me.
Flapjack flung the door open and bolted into the fog, the doctor's cackling laughter ringing in his ears. He didn't stop running, not once, until he reached the harbor's edge. He could still hear the doctor's voice calling after him, promising that one day Flapjack would return to his clinic, to be made perfect. But Flapjack knew he'd never be the same. He had seen the doctor's madness, the hunger in his eyes. There was no escape from someone like that, and somewhere deep inside, Flapjack knew the doctor would be waiting for him forever.